Welcome to Somewhere in Between. I am Leo.
I am Nikki.
I'm Jackie.
And we have a special guest today.
I'm Lynn.
Hey, Lynn.
Hey, girl.
So, Lynn, tell everyone about yourself.
So I'm Lynn Williams. I'm born and raised from Savannah, Georgia. So I am local. And I am a HR by profession in aerospace and defense. That's kind of my 9 to 5. I am an entrepreneur as well. I am partnered with Indulge Coffee. We're a mobile barista bar doing coffees, teas, lattes, all sorts of things in the festivals and local area. Also co-founder and chair of a local nonprofit called Cultivate Savannah, where we uplift and empower BIPOC, 2S, LGBTQ community members.
Awesome. Wasn't that awesome?
That is awesome.
I'm going to give a round of applause.
Round of applause.
Thank you.
Okay.
I got questions about your regular 9 to 5. I didn't know
Right,
that. I'm like, girl, what do you do?
I did not know.
Listen,
Yeah.
I'm like, we did all of the research for everything outside of that. But girl, we need to discuss some things.
I keep that in the back kind of, on purpose.
HR professionals
Yeah,
usually do.
Yes,
I
like,
work locally for a company in HR, and because it was local, like I didn't want people finding me and asking me one for a job, because that's not what I do in HR.
Right.
And then telling me how much they don't like this or don't like that, and
Right.
then I had to be very cognizant of my own appearance and how I show up because of that professional white collar work.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so now in the space that I'm in, I do mostly like project management, strategic work, partnering with the business executives and helping them with their people resources and aligning those to the business goals and the strategies over short-term and long-term periods. And I lead a team as well that do that across 4 or 5 sites. So I'm
That's
fully
amazing.
remote, and being remote, I'm able to have this flexibility to be able to join lovely women such as yourselves.
That's amazing.
And I'm so glad. We need to promote, more companies need to do remote work, because you're able to do all the things that are needed. So, yeah, that is really exciting.
I think what's interesting is that you have an identity like outside of that HR realm that's almost more true to who you are.
I do. And I show up to work as my authentic self, and I try to do that as much as possible. I understand that there's a time and a place for certain things. I also chair the global ERG for the Pride organization at my company. So that's kind of my volunteer day job, where we have, we're huge. It's a global site, global organization. And so we have several Pride organizations throughout the sites. And as chair, I help lead that strategy and deploy that and help those sites, tie their goals and their needs to the organizational needs and things. So that's kind of how I show up as myself. I'm very open about who I am and having a wife and a family. And when I have to, I don't really say I code switch, because I just say it like it is at work. And I tell people all the time, I'm HR, but I'm not that kind of HR. Like, I'm not here to hire you, fire you. You can actually be yourself with me. Tell me what your needs are, and I can help support you as much as I possibly can. So, I wear shirts like this. I wear Pride shirts, empower Black women. We need more Black CEO shirts on Zoom all the time.
Right.
And,
what does your shirt say?
Listen, I match energy. So you tell me how we're going to behave today.
I love it. Okay, so for this interview, we're going to be talking more about Cultivate Savannah. But before we get started, how do you identify like race, pronouns? Well, how should we address you?
So she, her pronouns.
Okay.
I do consider myself as either, queer, pan. I'm good with either. I thought about that term pan for a long time, pansexual, because people are so not used to it. And I also blame Miley Cyrus, because, when Miley Cyrus came out with saying she was pan, a lot of people were just really confused by that. But now we got Wayne Brady, y'all. So
we won't give it back.
So with that said, it's like, as I thought about people that I've dated throughout, before I was married and everything, all sorts of women, men, individuals, people. And they didn't identify as male or female, kind of in between and all those things. And so to me, that makes sense that, okay, I love them for who they were, or were attracted to them for who they were as a person and an individual, not because of their gender.
Okay.
It wasn't tied to that. And so I'm okay with queer or pan, whichever one. And I am half Korean and half Black. My mother is Korean, my father's Black. And I'm a mother, a sister, I'm a human being, at the end of the day.
Okay.
Do you find that, like, earlier you said something about you don't really code switch, but you have to let people know, like, I'm not just HR. Do you find that other people, you have to present that way so that other people don't code switch you?
It's so yeah, it's really interesting because I have all these various identities that make up who I am. And sometimes I fall into one a little bit more than the other. And even in like the Black community, the Korean community, the gay community, a lot of times people see that outer appearance and there's an assumption that's made, of this, oh, she's very prim, she's very proper. Listen, I can get down with them. Like the things I've done in the past, you would not put those two things with me
at all.
And so it's very much about don't judge a book by its cover, right? And in the workplace, I try to show up and adapt to who I'm talking to or who I'm speaking with and the environment that I'm in so that they do feel comfortable. So if I'm in my ERG meeting and I'm talking to a broader group of broad individuals, I don't have my HR hat on unless I need to put that on and then say, okay, wait, hold up. Let's talk about this. But I am mindful of like kind of those identities and who I'm showing up as in that moment because of that. And I don't know that I would necessarily say that it's always code switching because every part of that is part of me in some shape or form.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Can you pass that to her?
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Oh, I like this question. We've talked about purpose on our podcast before, and so we're curious to know, what is your why?
So, I mean, it's a lot of things. In terms of Cultivate Savannah, my why is because of that space of belonging and inclusion and having that sense of belonging and inclusion. There was not an organization that focused on the QT BIPOC community, queer, trans, Black, Indigenous people of color specifically. There are pockets in other LGBT specific organizations. When you look at those organizations, we're in the South, y'all. We are in the South. And so they are predominantly run by white gay men,
Right.
or just white, LGBT individuals. And when you bring those intersectionalities together of being of color and then being gay on top of that, you're even more marginalized. And let's throw like disabilities and neurodivergencies on top of that, right? And so where do I fit in? Where is my seat at that table?
Right.
Sometimes we don't have a seat at that table. And so guess what? We're going to go and we're going to make our own table.
Right.
It's right here. Yeah.
Exactly. And we're going to pull up chairs and we're going to invite the people who want to sit with us, who want to be there, or who want to help us build a bigger table.
Right.
And take that action and be a part of that. That's a big part of my why, because growing up in Savannah, I didn't see that. I didn't see a lot of Korean people. I didn't see a lot of gay people. I didn't see a lot of Black gay people. In high school, we kind of had our notions of who they were, but assumptions, right? And we were right because now they're out.
Yeah,
but
we
anyway,
knew. We knew. We knew.
It just was. There wasn't space to talk about it. It wasn't accepting. It wasn't comfortable. You didn't feel safe. And so, coming through Savannah, we had a lot of. Everybody knows about Club One. That was the one safe place we could all go to. And then having a wife who was in the military during Don't Ask, Don't Tell, that made it even more difficult because we had to go to that one safe space where we knew we could be ourselves. And then when we came out of there, we weren't holding hands. We weren't doing those things. And then again, being women of color, it was like, it was just a challenge when you had these festivals going on or these workshops because they weren't necessarily geared towards us. And when you show up and you're the only women of color, you're the only people of color, and majority are all white, it's like, I like the pop music, but sometimes I want to get down with some scrappy and some features, whatever it may be. And it wasn't there. And so that was my why. Now for the group in itself with the co-founders who all came together, very similar, except some had some direct harm from these other places. And I can't speak to exactly what happened, their experiences, but I will say what they shared with me were just direct ousting from these organizations, direct
Really?
harm, direct, I don't want you to participate. I don't want you to do that. And it got ugly. I mean, it was in newspapers, it was on social media, and it still kind of stirs up to this day. And, I went to a place yesterday, and they were talking about Cultivate Savannah and how happy they were that this is happening and building and growing, because they had heard that there were other organizations that weren't inclusive.
Right.
And this was from a white woman who was saying this, and it was like, oh, well, tell me more, because I directly have not been harmed by them. I directly have not had experience with them, but I know enough community members who say they have, and that was kind of their experience as well. So this was very much a gap that needed to be filled and needed to happen.
Okay.
And what about your why for Indulge Coffee? Because I think we could talk about both.
Yeah.
Of those.
So I believe in multiple streams of income. We had a little bit of a conversation about COVID hitting and how that impacted people because of work. You either had to stop working or you had to go home. And, I never want to be in a place where I don't have something happening. I've got a property that I rent out in Little I also do some business consulting, and then Indulge Coffee. My why with that specifically was my best friend. My best friend is like a brother. He's half Asian as well. He's gay, veteran, all of those things. And we've been friends for a very long time. He started Indulge Coffee, probably 10 years ago. It used to be in a brick and mortar, and then COVID hit. Some things happened, and then kind of laid low for a little while. And then he started getting back on the internet, and it's a huge passion of his. Entrepreneurship is a passion of mine. I watched my dad, who was an entrepreneur after the military, but coffee itself was a huge passion. I like coffee, right? But I never thought of coffee business. And so as I saw his desire to want to really bring it back, I said, how about I partner with you? Let's do this together, because together we can be a powerhouse.
Yeah.
And he was like, I've been meaning to ask you that. I'm like, nothing. Like, come on. And so last year, I want to say it's like April timeframe, we just kind of put our heads together. Here's what we're going to do. And I think it was the Juneteenth festival last year at Tanger, where was our first like outdoor kind of market event together. Huge success. And we've just been going from there. And now we've got a trailer that he's building out. It's got the electrical and everything, but he's like really hands on with woodwork and things. So he's putting the counters in, and it's we're ready to kind of get that going. And so we've really grown and have been just enjoying the whole Indulge Coffee experience. Now I've become more of a coffee snob. I wasn't as much before, but now I'm like, this tastes like tap water. What is this?
What is this?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Okay, so tell us about your experience starting a business in Savannah.
So I've started other business as well, over past years and things like that. I'll say with the Indulge Coffee experience and the Cultivate experience, it has not been easy. I mean, with starting any business, you're going to have your trials and tribulations. A nonprofit versus a for-profit, two different challenges, right? You've got board members and things you have to talk about. You've got, certain compliance obligations and things. And similar in terms of, hey, we got to go get licensing. We got to make sure we tax all this stuff. That's all fine and dandy. But dealing just a partnership or a sole proprietorship is going to be completely different from, we have to make sure everybody's aligned. The board is aligned. And what are the community needs? What does everyone want there? In terms of starting like in Savannah, what we have seen though is there's an outpouring of love, right? We love this. We need this. We need more Black businesses. Do you have a brick and mortar? We get asked that all the time at the festivals, because they love the counter that he made by his hand, all of those things. And it's like, if you know of any locations that are affordable, let us know. We'll talk about it. Because what we found is that is the biggest challenge right now, is being able to afford a location that is favorable where our market is located, that is going to make sense for us, because they want 35 per square foot triple net or more. And that's, we're talking like, 350 square foot, small locations and things of that nature. So even if we were to do that, then okay, now we've got to pay people because we have day jobs. We've got to supply it. We've got to revamp everything inside. You have to put in a grease trap. What we found is that in the city of Savannah, it is very difficult to start a business. There are so much red tape, so many regulations we have to follow. I don't understand why we need a grease trap. We're not frying food.
Right.
We're a coffee shop. Well, because there's dairy products, milk, but we're not pouring milk down the drains.
Right.
And so, it's a system of oppression at the end of the day. This system that is there was not built for us, is what,
Yep.
And when we were looking for spaces and we saw places that were, hey, $25, where we could do that. It was just the agent that was working with us, or that we had called to show us a couple of spaces. You could tell the vibe. She wasn't really into it. She didn't believe in us. And then we went and looked at another place and was like, okay, this isn't too bad. And when we came out, you know what she said? There's a location that y'all should look at. It's over on Montgomery Street. And it's owned by, oh my gosh, the rapper. Killer Mike.
It just got worse and worse.
Killer
and worse
Mike.
The more she talked.
Oh no, it still gets worse.
Oh my goodness.
I bet you know somebody who knows Killer Mike. Now, how would I know somebody who knows Killer Mike? His wife is from here, and they do philanthropy all the time. First of all, Killer Mike voted for Trump and was a huge Trump supporter. So why again would I know anybody and want to? So I said, and then I thought about it. I was like, I do know somebody who knows Killer Mike. That is not.
That is besides the point. You don't get to tell me that I know somebody.
Exactly, because what assumption did you make?
Right. What was the
only thing
assumption
I
that led
can
to
think of
that?
is because we are people of color, you assume that we are associated with hip hop, rap music, and rappers,
Or that property.
or that property. And in the moment, I did not know. I had to kind of think about it. I was like, okay, actually, I might know somebody later on. But in that moment, no, I didn't know anybody. And that assumption alone let me know that she was not serious about us.
Right.
And so we just kind of said, you know what, let's focus on the mobile piece. There was a location that we found with some Black owners, and they were wonderful. And I was so proud to see their business in that location, because they also had rental units, Airbnbs upstairs. And this is in the heart of downtown Savannah.
Oh, wow.
Property owners. And it had come down to the two of us, our business and another business, getting into that spot. But at that point, we had decided to just pivot and focus on the mobile side first. But it's a nice spot, and I still stay in touch with the owner, because I said, hey, at the real estate thing, as I'm doing my real estate thing with the rental properties, I'd love to have somebody that I can talk to, a mentor. She was like, let's do coffee. She, wonderful woman. And then with Cultivate, we're up against so many different things. Other established organizations, number one, who are rooted in the community and throughout businesses, and have found supporters, for years. And so there's that thought of an us versus them. And that's not what it's about.
Instead of it being a collaboration, now it's more of a competition, and it doesn't have to be that, because we all are serving the same people. And why can't we just come together and use the resources?
Exactly. And it's, we're feeling a gap, a specific need for a specific population within that community that you were not focusing on. That was not your focus.
That's underserved.
And that's underserved. And you look at your goals and you can see that people of color is not something specific, right? And that's okay, because here we are. That's what we're here for, right? And then we've got just being gay in the South, on top of all of that. So we're having to fight that opposition, and then people who supposedly believe they're woke and saying, well, now this is a little bit more divisive. No, it's not, because again, this is a duality of marginalization that we're experiencing, that others aren't. And so there's a lot of opposition, but at the same time, I'm really, really grateful for the support for both of those businesses that we're seeing with the community.
And supporting intersectionality. So intersectionality matters. It's a completely different experience when you belong to several groups, within, subgroups of a group.
Absolutely, that matters, because that is like it's kind of like where we are with somewhere in between. It's for the people who fall somewhere in between. Like we are. We're like professional women, but one of us is a nerd. I'm more in the legal field, but I am a model also. Like I have a lot of different, I'm multifaceted. And sometimes when you go places, they want you to be just one thing. Like you get to come here, you can be a part of this group, but you can only be this person when you're here. And it's like, no, I want to be all of me.
And show up as myself.
Right.
Exactly. So that I love that. Looks like you already answered basically. Do you think that how you identify had an effect on your experience getting started? I think you answered a little bit of that. What about how can people support the LGBT plus BIPOC business community?
So
Let's start right there.
Earlier when you said LG battery, is that to help? Remember LG